encouraging celebration to see you all here during these very challenging times, and that is an understatement, certainly. As you can see from our agenda and handout, we have a really packed day. So first, let's talk all about you. We have over 250 participants, both of those who are exclusively FFRF members and the household participants that are included with them. Recall that last year, the total was 180, and when we launched the chapter, there were only 10, so it's kind of been an amazing growth percentage, and we hope to continue that in the future. And you've traveled here today from our 7 regions, from the North Country to the Southern Tier, from east to west, from western New York, the Finger Lakes, central New York, the Mohawk Valley, the Capital District. There are some of you here from all those areas. We have even some that have come from New York City, Long Island, New Jersey, Boston, Canada, and Pennsylvania. And some of you are bi-coastal, living in both New York and California. So thank you all for being here. And if any of you know of current FFRF members and others who are interested freethinkers in our region, please encourage them to join the chapter at unyft.org. Upstate New York Freethinkers has been featured in numerous issues of FFRF's national newspaper Free Thought Today, and in radio interviews with FFRF's co-presidents Annie Laurie Gaylor and Dan Barker on Free Thought Radio and podcasts. These reach beyond FFRF's 42,000 plus members. And the Freedom from Religion Foundation gives charity grants annually to chapters nationwide so that we can do charitable work without religious motivation, thereby promoting secular values and supporting local communities in our regions. Building on last year's gift to the Rural Health Network, which made the local TV news in Binghamton, they actually said the word freethinkers on TV news. We are planning to do a joint press release next year for the next $1,000 charitable grant and volunteer efforts at the Pride Center of the Capital Region in Albany. The donation is being made to directly support the vital programs for LGBTQIA+ individuals. LGBTQIA+, for those of you that may not know, stands for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer and questioning, intersex, asexual, aromantic, and agender, plus the grant will fund their weekly support groups, their mental health services and advocacy, and this initiative reflects our commitment to human rights and fostering an inclusive society that is grounded in reason. Our presentation will be part of their 2025 Transition Expo, which is designed to inform the transgender, gender nonconforming, and non-binary community and their allies about different facets of transition. We will also plan a chapter dinner and lunch surrounding these events, and the press will be invited to attend with a brief ceremony and interviews, and you are all invited to join the chapter board at that event in Albany during the presentation of the grant and have a meal together. At last year's gathering, we talked about the First Amendment in depth and the examples of possible violations throughout upstate New York that have been shared by our chapter participants. Some of those violations include county legislative meeting prayers, one of our real sore spots, crutches, nativity scenes on government property, prayers at public school gatherings, the use of our New York State tax dollars for school voucher programs and religious instruction, fake pregnancy clinics, the so-called crisis pregnancy centers, and voting and other government-sponsored events in religious buildings that are owned and operated by religious organizations that openly discriminate, particularly against women and members of the LGBTQIA+ community. During today's gathering, our speakers will dig deeper into our understanding of the overarching issues of separation of church and state. We have a chapter that is supported by our donations and grants from the Freedom from Religion Foundation, which we thank FFRF for. As you can see on the screen, FFRF provides us with support for operations, charities, and conventions. This includes a $1,000 operations grant and a $1,000 charity grant each year. The charity grant allows us to select a nonprofit, as I spoke about earlier, in our region to receive that award annually. And looking at our financials on the left, the chapter started 2023 with 706 in startup funds from FFRF, and then in 2024 our expenses were $2,500, which came in under budget. We received $2,870 in donations, thank you, all of you, and our monthly donations are holding steady at an average of $40 per month. And with this support, our net gain for 2024 was $3,435. This year, we're working toward the goal of becoming a sustaining chapter. Our participant base has grown to over 250 people, as I said, and FFRF provides a $5 annual contribution for every one FFRF member per household. In our chapter, that is 215 FFRF members, and this year, the FFRF generously provided a 50% bonus to those $5, totaling $1,600 more in support. We really want to thank FFRF for the newly automating these transfers directly to our bank account also. Our long-term vision is to build an endowment for a chapter reinvestment in perpetuity. We want to leave a legacy that sustains the chapter's operations. So consider a one-time donation, monthly donations for as small as $5 a month, or set up a free thought donation in your estate planning. You can find all the details to donate on our website, and please let us know if you want more information. And to help us manage our growth, we're actively seeking a pro bono accounting advisor who is a participant of our chapter that would like to help move us from our spreadsheets to professional financial software so that we can become even more compatible with FFRF's systems. The board is committed to transparency and will continue to post our annual reports and tax filings on our website. Now, in some ways, we're raising awareness of free thought across New York State in quite a number of ways. And for one example, the photos in this slide capture books in an upstate library that were requested by a chapter participant. Notice, if you can see the detail, how they've been placed alongside books like The 7 Deadly Sins of Narcissism and Believe Why Everyone Should Be Religious. Was this placement strategic? Don't be discouraged. Every challenge of tradition faces an uphill battle, and we will continue to contend with these challenges. Learn more about our libraries program under our outreach and events section on our website. Just imagine claiming space for free thought in every single public library across New York State, and by requesting displays during the Secular Week of Action, or by offering a secular alternative to the religious holiday promotions. It's up to us, and you can take action in your own communities with our support. Thanks also to a generously donated meetup group account from the Secular Humanist of Rochester, we have a new group in Buffalo, the Western New York Freethinkers Meetup, which Megan has been leading. Thank you, Megan. This is an exciting way for our chapter to branch out and grow and to maintain focus on its specific goals. The meetup is exclusive for chapter participants. Our first focus is Buffalo, because the Buffalo Humanist chapter became defunct after its leader died, and this left a popular Facebook page with hundreds of followers without an administrator, and this meetup is our partial solution to that. We're here to find a next of kin or an original member to help us revive the old chapter and reclaim the page. Start a new chapter that then can work with the American Humanist Association to reclaim that community. This effort, we see this as critical in strengthening our mission because we all build coalitions and work together. Our chapter weaves together the strengths of the atheist and humanist groups across New York State into a very vibrant tapestry of free thought. We've connected with active secular meetup groups across the state, such as the Central New York Humanists, the Capital Region Atheists and Agnostics, and the Capital District Humanist Society. And last year, Upstate New York Freethinkers advocated for and helped to pass the Equal Rights Amendment. The Attorney General announced that the ERA was advanced to protect access to abortion care and to enshrine this basic right in our Constitution and do everything in our power to protect these rights. Passed in 2024, as probably many of you know, the amendment prohibits government discrimination based on ethnicity, national origin, age, disability, and sex, including sexual orientation, pregnancy, and abortion. It includes protections for the LGBTQIA+ community and reproductive autonomy. This amendment passed with an overwhelming 62% of the vote, with more than 4.5 million New Yorkers voting in its favor. Today, we'll give you more specific things to advocate for legislation at unyft.org/legislation. And now it's my pleasure to introduce David Hoffman. Some of you may remember David from the Eastern Communications Association 2025 conference in Buffalo, where he led a panel with our very own Annie Laurie Gaylor as one of the participants. His book, American Free Thought, The History of a Social Movement, 1794 to 1948, was published by Johns Hopkins University Press in June. Professor Hoffman works at the intersection of rhetoric, history, and politics. He has published works on classical rhetorical theory and political figures, and his work has appeared in prestigious academic journals such as Rhetorica and Rhetoric and Public Affairs. He received his PhD in Communication Studies from the University of Iowa. Thanks to our deep collaboration with David, you can visit our website to listen to his Free Thought radio and podcast interview with Annie, Lori, and Dan, watch a video of the American Free Thought panelist experts, read Establishment Clause questions and answers, and learn from Dan Barker's extensive explanation of what is a freethinker. Also read David's students' letters to her congressperson about Christianity's influence on politics. And you also can use a 30% discount code to buy his book. All this on our website. So go to the news submenu if you're looking for this, select American Free Thought, or go directly to unyft.org/American Free Thought and you'll find it. We are delighted to have him here to introduce our keynote speakers, and now for David Hoffman.
In order to welcome our distinguished guests, Annie Laurie Gaylor and Dan Barker, to this great state of New York with its deep and strong tradition of free thought, I have assembled a committee of past freethinkers who have spent significant time in New York State to help welcome Annie, Laurie, and Dan here. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, does this mean that I can be drafted onto a committee even after I'm dead? I thought we didn't believe in hell here. But this is such a great committee that dead or alive, you would want to be on it. Because who do we have? We have Thomas Paine, who spent most of his time after returning to the United States from France in 1802 in New York State, New Rochelle, and in New York City. Paine is, of course, famous for writing a book called Common Sense that turned an American tax revolt into a war for independence. But freethinkers hold him dear because of another book he wrote called The Age of Reason that argued that the Bible made no common sense. We have Elihu Palmer, a blind former preacher who came to New York City to start one of the first deistic societies, free-thinking deistic societies in America with Thomas Paine. We have Frances Wright, a Scottish heiress who was the first woman to go on a speaking tour of the United States, the first woman to go on a speaking tour of any kind. She was a great champion of science. She told her listeners to turn your churches into halls of science. And to follow her own advice, she bought an abandoned Baptist church in New York City and turned it into a hall of science, which was a center for free thought for many years. We have Ernestine Rose, who also immigrated to New York and spent most of her time in the United States on the Lower East Side. She campaigned for women's property rights before the Civil War and won them in New York State and set an example for the rest of the country. She is the only freethinker that I know before the Civil War that publicly defended atheism. We have Elizabeth Cady Stanton, the upstate freethinker powerhouse of the women's rights movement, organizer of the Seneca Falls Convention, but she also spearheaded a project to put together something called the Women's Bible that critically looked at the parts of the Bible that feminist thought needed to be critically looked at and deserves a place in the Free Thought Hall of Fame for this and other things. We have Frederick Douglass, a man who lived 25 years in Rochester, New York. He, of course, escaped enslavement to become a powerhouse of the abolition movement. He became a religious skeptic because he was horrified by the way that the Bible was used to justify slavery. We have Matilda Jocelyn Gage, who we'll be learning a lot more about later today. She, among other things, pointed out that women who make scientific inventions frequently didn't, especially in her day, get the credit that was due to them. We have Robert Ingersoll, the rock star of 1880s and 1890s free thought oratory, of course, born here in the great state of New York. We have Hubert Harrison, a Caribbean immigrant who's called the father of Harlem radicalism for his work to promote free thought and socialism. We have Zora Neale Hurston, a Columbia-trained anthropologist whose clear-sighted fiction made her a central figure in the Harlem Renaissance. And rounding out the committee, we have Vashti McCollum, an Illinois mother whose 1948 Supreme Court case stopped religious education in public schools, born and raised right here in the great state of New York. And now, join me in welcoming Annie Laurie Gaylor and Don Barker, co-presidents of the Freedom from Religion Foundation, who join us from Madison, Wisconsin. Annie Laurie Gaylor co-founded the Freedom from Religion Foundation with her mother, Ann Nicole Gaylor, in 1976. She has edited the paper Free Thought Today and published several books, including Women Without Superstition. Dan Barker is a former evangelical minister who became a freethinker in 1984. He is the author of more than 10 books, including Losing Faith in Faith and Godless. His latest is called Contradiction. Last night I learned that he has logged more than 1 million miles of air travel promoting the cause of free thought. This morning I learned that he passed up a promising career on Broadway as well to do this important work. So join me with a round of applause to welcome Annie Laurie.